Welcome to Eduk TC3 class. This is Mayonelle Oreo Lopez, BEED4-1. Let's begin with our energizer. This is what you called memory game. I will show you a picture that you can stare on 10 seconds. Then after that, I will give a question about the picture. Be the first to send your answer in classroom chat box. Let's have a warm-up. Number 1. What is your favorite color? Take it easy, guys. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's proceed to the real one. Number 1. What is the color of the flag? Great job! Let's proceed to number 2. What is the date of National Teachers Month? Very good! Let's proceed to next, number 3. Give 3 school supplies you remember. Amazing! Let's go to number 4. What is the color of teacher's hair? You're super! Number 5. How many students hands up for recitation? That's good! Congratulations to all winners! You have 10 seconds clap! For our lab questions, this is number 1. Which is the best synonyms for the word advocate? Letter A, determine. Letter B, predict. Letter C, pronounce. Letter D, support. Number 2. In the parlance of task construction, what does TOS mean? Letter A, table of specifics. Letter B, table of specification. Letter C, table of test items. And letter D, theme of a specification. Our topic for today is very important to discuss. We, as future educator, it is very important that we know the laws of the field that we are choosing for. So now, are you ready to discuss the basic law of education? For our objectives, number 1 is to apply responsibilities of a teacher and a community we will belong to. Number 2, to know the rights and duties of a future educator. To love the community of the field we choose. Educational Act of 1982 states that this act shall apply to both formal and non-formal educational system. So it means that all public and private schools are covered by this law. For the Chapter 2, we will talk about the policy and objectives. For the policy is to maintain accelerating rate, assure maximum participants, strengthen national unity. This states that the establishment of educational system is to help and accelerate nation building. For our objectives, to provide broad education, to train nation's manpower, to develop professions, to respond effectively. These objectives aims to develop Filipino people to become functional and fruitful human beings for the national development. The Numerical 2 Educational Community, Chapter 1, states that the parents, personnel, and schools shall ensure the welfare and interest of the students by doing their duties and responsibilities in a participative and collaborative manner. For the Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 is the rights and obligations. Let's go first to the parents. Parents have the rights to organize themselves, so it means that they have to discuss matters relating to a school program. That's why we have Parents-Teacher Association. Next is, they have the right to access official records, especially relating to their children. And for their obligations, help carry out educational objectives. Number 2, is strive the right to educational formation for their children. And also, they must cooperate with the school program. Next, let's talk about the rights of students. Number 1 is they have the right to receive relevant quality education. Number 2, freely choose their field of study. Number 3, they have the right to be guided. Number 4, they have the right to access his own records. Number 5, they have the right of issuance of official certificates. Number 6, publish newspaper and right to invite resource speaker. Number 7, they have the right to express their opinions. 8, they have the right to form or join an organization. Number 9, they also have the right to be free from involuntary contributions except those approved by their own organization. And for their obligations, students must exert his utmost, uphold academic integrity, maintain peace of the school, participate actively, and exercise his right. Okay, now we have the rights and obligations of teachers. Let's go to the rights. Teachers have the rights to free from assignment that is not related to their duties. Second, they have the right for intellectual property with loss. And third, they have the right to have an authority. And the last one is they have the right to choose alternative career. And for their obligations, they have to perform duties to school, be accountable for his or her attainment, render reports, maintain professional growth, make deduction for a student's rating, participate in school programs. For the administrator rights and obligations, administrators have the right to be given authority for efficient performance and given respect and protection. For the obligation of the administrator, they have to be accountable in school management. They have to maintain a healthy school atmosphere. They have to maintain professional behavior. They have to render adequate reports to all staff, observe dues and discipline. And also, they have to submit required records. Rights of non-teaching personnel are free to express opinion, provided with free legal service, maintain self-regulating organization, free from involuntary contribution. For their obligation, they have to improve professionalism. They have to assume professional attitude, and they have to maintain conducive atmosphere. Numerical number 3, the educational system. In Chapter 1, we will discuss the formal education. The policy, formal education is the primary learning system of society. So, let's talk about the formal education. Formal education is chronological, graded learning. For the first stage is the elementary, which completes 6 years. Second stage is the secondary, that completes 4 years. And tertiary, that completes a degree. Okay, let's talk about the objectives of every stage. First is the elementary. Develop skills and values. Provide learning experiences. Intensify child knowledge in nation and people. Promote gainful and honest work. For secondary, promote objective of elementary education. Enhance aptitude and interest. For tertiary, provide general education. Train in the skills for national development. Develop leaders for nation. Advance knowledge through research. For Chapter 2, non-formal education and specialized educational services, government recognizes that there's a special need to be met for certain sectors. Number 1 is the work education. This is for students who doesn't want to go to tertiary level but wants to develop their technical skills. That's why we have TESDA. For number 2, the special education. This is for students who needs special treatment. That's what we call SPED. For non-formal education is for the illiterates, out-of-school youths and adults who wants to finish their studies outside the regular offering of the formal school system. That's why we have ALS. Chapter 3, Establishment of Schools. Establishment of schools shall establish according to the law. Government assistance to such schools for educational program shall be used exclusively for that purpose. So we have the definition of terms. A school is the educational institution. The public school is administered by the government, and the private school is administered by the private groups. Section 27, Recognition of a School. A school operation shall be authorized by the government. All rules and regulations governing recognition shall be implemented by the Department of Education. In Section 28, Effect of Recognition, Punishable Violations, Permit, Certificates, and Recognition from Government. It means that the issuance of Certificate of Recognition means the transformation from temporary to permanent authority to operate. To entitle schools to give the students certificates, titles, and diploma that gives benefits and privileges to all graduates. And for Section 29, voluntary accreditation, meet standard over or above the minimum required for state recognition. Chapter 4, Internal Organization of School. In Section 30, Organization of School, This states that each school shall establish their own internal organization that will implement its academic and administrative operation. In Section 31, Governing Board, all government college of university and private school must have a governing board. In Section 32, the personal transaction, every personnel that is employed by the government is under the Civil Service Commission, and the private school personnel is under the Department of Labor and Employment. Chapter 5, School Finance and Assistance. For public school, we have the Section 34, National Fund. All public schools shall be primarily funded by National Fund. Section 35, Financial Aid and Assistance to Public Secondary Schools will be given to LGU who establish a public secondary school. Section 36, the share of local government. LGU shall allocate annual budget for the public school for operation and maintenance. Section 37, Special Education Fund. This is from the real estate taxes and sin taxes. Section 38, Tuition and other school fees. This is from the secondary and college schools. In Section 39, Income from other source, it is all from donations. Now let's proceed to private school. In Section 40, Funding of private school. Comes from the school investment. Section 41, Government assistance. The government can provide aid in terms of scholarship and loan. In Section 42, Tuition and other school fees. Each private school has a standard rate for the tuition and other miscellaneous fees. In Section 40, Income from other source. Private can also accept grants and donations from individuals, organizations, and companies. In Section 44, Institutional Fund. It is the profit of the school from the school fees and other charges. And now, let's talk about the incentives to education. School property. All private school real properties for educational purposes are subjected to real property tax of 15% of the market value. Gifts and donations. All gifts and donations for private school are not subjected to tax. Scholarship funds. All profits from the investment of scholarship fund that was used to finance additional scholarship grants for deserving students are all tax-free. School dispersal program. All gains from sale transfer of property will be exempted to tax if the total income of the sale are reinvested in a new or existing established school within 1 year. Conversion to educational foundations. Any educational institution can shift itself into a non-profit foundation. For topic paradigm 1, this shows that the act of education gives equal rights, support, and obligations to all people and all institutions that are related to education system through giving systematic policies that is protected and supported by the government. We're here now in our second topic, the Republic Act 9155. This act of instituting a framework of governance for basic education, establishing authority and accountability, renaming the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports of the Department of Education, and for other purposes. In Section 1, Government of Basic Education Act of 2001. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. The government declared that this policy is to protect and promote the rights of all citizens to provide accessible education to all Filipino children with free and compulsory education in elementary and high school level. Section 3. Purpose and Objectives. A. To provide framework for governance of basic education. B. To define the roles and responsibilities and provide resources to the field offices. C. To give importance to schools and learning centers as vehicle for loving the country. D. To ensure the schools and learning centers receive that kind of focus they need for the educational program. E. To enable the schools and learning centers to reflect the values of the community. F. To encourage local initiatives for improvement of schools and learning centers. And G. To establish schools and learning centers as facilities where children will able to learn. Section 4. Definition of terms. A. Alternative learning system. Providing viable alternative to the existing educational instruction. B. Basic education. Foundation of education that encompasses elementary and high school and ALS for out-of-school youth. C. Cluster of schools is a group of schools. D. Formal education, systematic process, hierarchically structured. E. Informative education, lifelong process of learning. F. Integrated school, offers a complete basic education in one school site. G. Learner, an individually seeking basic literacy skill. H. Learning center, facilities for learning program for youths and adults. I. Learning facilitator, key person who is responsible for facilitating the learners. J. Non-formal education, a systemized educational activity carried outside the framework that provides selected types of learning and segment of population. K. Quality education, an excellence education given to aspiring individual. In Chapter 1, Governance of Basic Education, we will talk about the principle of shared governance. The governance, powers, duties, and functions of every personnel on different level. We have the school level, school district level, division level, regional level, and the national level. In Chapter 2, Transfer of Cultural Agencies, Section 8, Cultural Agencies. Chapter 3, Abolition of Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports, Section 9, Abolition of BPESS. Chapter 4, Support and Assistance of Other Government Agencies. We have in Section 10, the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Budget and Management shall, within 90 days from approval of this Act. Section 11, the Secretary of Department of Education, subject to civil service laws and regulations, shall issue appropriate personnel policy, rules, and regulations. Section 12, the Commission on Audit, in the issuance of audit rules and regulations that will govern the utilization of all resources as well as the liquidation, recording, and reporting. And now, in Chapter 5, the final provision, Section 13, Governance in the Arm. Section 40, Rules and Regulations. Section 15, Separability Clause. Section 16, Repealing Clause. And Section 17, Effectivity Clause. And now, I will present to you the Paradigm 2 for our second topic. This shows that every person behind every institution have their own responsibilities and duties. They may have different roles and functions, but each person plays an integral role to a unified approach in a good governance.